Alright, this is gonna be, well, it's not a video response because YouTube is so fucking gay. It's a gay piece of shit website. Fuck this website. But this is basically gonna be somewhat of a response to this dude named Adam Koralik. Alright, I just subscribed to him on YouTube, and he makes some pretty cool videos about gaming and, the console wars and stuff like that. And he basically did two videos that I actually really enjoyed. One was called the 6th video game generation recap. The other was the 7th video game generation recap. His thoughts overall, all that good shit. And he's basically the one that really. This is also gonna be a rant on the 7th generation of video games. But basically, I watched his 7th video game generation. Now, that was a stupid title, dude. If he's watching this, that was a stupid title. You should have just did your opinions on the 7th generation of gaming. 6th video game generation, that's a stupid title. I'm just saying. But, basically, he did a cool little video talking about, how the generation started off and stuff like that. But basically, there were two things in his video that he said that, well, one of them that really just pissed me off the wrong way. One in particular was that he doesn't believe that online gaming ruined gaming. He thinks that even though he's not into online gaming himself, he's more into single player and all that shit, that he doesn't think that it ruined gaming, and I buy that to be bullshit. It did ruin gaming. It ruined the 7th generation of gaming, and basically this video is going to be my take on the 7th generation of video games. Basically, the generation started off with Microsoft being much more aggressive than in the 6th generation with the original Xbox. They wanted to release before Sony a year in advance with the 360. They were trying really hard to get Japanese developers to make games for their console, for the 360. Alright, they were advertising on MTV. They had an MTV special before even E3. The console was slimmer. It was a lot smaller than the original Xbox. It was the first to have that shitty, annoying power brick, though, which is one thing that they didn't want to talk too much about. But if you buy the Xbox, it has a fucking power brick. But basically, Microsoft, they're aggressive. And to me, the 7th generation of video games is, to me, the most disappointing era in gaming. It's not the worst by any means. It's definitely not the worst era in gaming, but it's definitely the biggest disappointment, because the beginning of this generation, you had so much promise. Sony already had everyone from the PS2. All right, there was so many. I remember this was my senior year in high school, and I remember everyone was like, I don't know about the Xbox. We're kind of more interested to see what the PS3 has to offer. We want to see what Sony has to offer. So Sony was like the king of the world prior to E3 2006 when they announced the PS3 for $600. And I even remember some people, even at that point, saying that they would still want to buy a PS3 over the Xbox. And, it was just a heated debate because there were Xbox fans, PlayStation fans. And, this could have very well been the best console war since the Super NES versus Sega Genesis. And it ended up being such a watered down piece of shit. And I'm going to get onto that later in the video. But basically, Microsoft, when they first launched the Xbox 360 back in 2005, it was like the sky was the limit. It was breaking records when it was selling out, and like every place, no place had the 360 available. It had a decent launch. It wasn't like a Sega Dreamcast type launch where they had so many kick-ass games like Soul Calibur, Sonic Adventure, etc., etc. But the 360 launch was decent. I mean, I remember I wanted to get one because of Quake 4. I'm a huge Quake fan. Used to be a huge Quake fan. Huge Doom and Quake fan right here. But I really wanted the Xbox 360 because of Quake 4, and I ended up getting one. And Perfect Dark Zero. This was before I found out that the game was a piece of shit. The game was just a mediocre, bland piece of shit. I was a huge fan of the original Perfect Dark for the N64, and I really wanted to play Perfect Dark Zero. And like I was just so fucking pissed off with that game, so disappointed with that game when I played it. I was just I was like, how the fuck did they do this? How the fuck did they, I'm not even going to talk about that game cuz that game was such a massive disappointment. But the 360 had a pretty cool launch. I mean, Quake 4, yeah, it wasn't like a great launch, but it was still a decent launch. It wasn't like the PS4 or the Xbox One launches, which sucked. Those launches sucked. You want to talk about terrible launches? Those launches sucked. Like, those were shitty launches for consoles. Alright, the Xbox at least had some decent games. The 360 at least had some decent games at launch. But it was just, and plus, there was like so much hype. Halo 2 had just came out a year before the 360 came out. And Halo 2 was like on fire. That game was awesome. The game had great co-op, great online great multiplayer in general. You didn't even need online. The only gripe I had with Halo was it didn't have any like bots. Like, I really thought Halo would be better if it had like bots in it. So even if you didn't have Xbox Live, you could have a really fucking awesome multiplayer experience, kind of similar to the original Perfect Dark, Unreal Tournament, Quake 3 Arena, where you could just like put bots in the game if you don't have online. That's what I really thought that Halo 3 needed. Halo 2 needed. But, it was just, that game was just awesome. It really, like, and I remember there was, like, hype around Halo 3 coming out, like, on the same day as the PS3 coming out. There was, like, so many crazy rumors back then. And that's when gaming was just at its, like, peak. It was at apex. The PS2 was basically, like, one of the best, if not the best, consoles of all time. I personally think the PS2 is my favorite console of all time next to the Super Nintendo. But it was just the gaming after, like, right after the PS2, and you're seeing Microsoft trying to be more aggressive because the original Xbox did not take market share from the PS2 like that, like it should have, you could argue it should have. So Microsoft's getting more aggressive. They're releasing a smaller console. It's not as big as the original Xbox. They're trying to get more Japanese developers. They're releasing a year early, Xbox Live, all that stuff. But it's just like, wow, Microsoft and Sony, they're going to go head to head with this. This could be like one of the greatest console wars since the Super Nintendo versus Sega Genesis. And it ended up being such a bland console. It ended up being like whatever. It ended up being like a whatever. And let me tell you why this console war. I'm not going to say it sucked, but why it was a huge, huge letdown. Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. The minute that game came out, all hope for like Microsoft trying to get more Japanese developers and trying to appeal more to like, the Japanese audiences and like the anime and otaku fanboys was just like, it was over. It was completely over at that point. Because after Call of Duty Modern Warfare, they just said, fuck it, we're going to go. All we're going to care about is like the American gamers after that. It was like 2008 was probably like the best year of the generation, simply because a lot of my favorite games from that generation came out. Devil May Cry 4, Gears of War 2. I really enjoyed Resistance 2. I love Resistance 2. Metal Gear Solid 4 was epic. There's some really cool. Even though I thought Metal Gear Solid 4 was overrated, it was overrated. But 2008 was a great year. That was probably the last like oh my god year in gaming. Like literally 2009 was nowhere on par with that. 2010 was nowhere on par with that. It was just like 2011 2009 I like Street Fighter 4, that was it. Like Batman Arkham Asylum, yeah, and Batman Arkham Asylum was awesome too. Like it was like finally we're getting like a really kick-ass Batman game. Prior to that, my favorite game was Batman Vengeance for the PS2. And, we're finally getting a really badass Batman game for, like, this generation of consoles. And I was stoked for that. And I remember 2 multiplats. Everyone always wants to say that multiplats for the 360 are better. 2 multiplats that were better for the PS3 were Devil May Cry 4 and Batman Arkham Asylum, because you got to play as a Joker, and it was exclusive DLC for the PS3 version. And yeah, I honestly, any game that was multiplat that was better on Xbox, I probably wasn't even into it anyway, because it was probably Call of Duty or Battlefield or some shitty game. All right, and BioShock was probably the only game I thought was kind of better for the 360, but I ended up getting it for the PS3, and BioShock was fucking awesome. You know, I I only played a little bit of the second one, so I can't comment on that. But BioShock 1 was fucking awesome. And, it was just like, aside from like certain games like the new Mortal Kombat 9 that came out in 2011 and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and stuff like that, I just did not give a shit about gaming anymore. This generation was the generation where I just lost interest in gaming. And it wasn't because I got older, entered college, got a job and stuff like that. No, it was the fact that gaming just wasn't as cool as it once was. It wasn't as epic as it once was. It wasn't as good as it once was. It wasn't like that, holy shit, fuck yeah. There's going to be, like, this console war should have been like Kratos versus Master Chief. Kind of like Sonic versus Mario in the 16-bit era. That's what this generation should have been about. It should have been like Sony's best versus Microsoft's best. And, I think developers also ruined it because they started releasing shitty games. And even good games that we were looking forward to ended up like being lackluster in a lot of ways because they would focus on releasing DLC and not even finishing a game. And they would also not even try to use the PS3's cell processor to make a better looking version of the game in most cases. And they would just say, oh, well, we're just going to focus on the Xbox version. Which, yeah, the Xbox 360 was more developer friendly. But still, I mean, you guys are supposed to be developers. You're supposed to know about math and shading and all this shit. You're supposed to know what you're doing. All right, you can make a better looking game on the PS3. So don't even, like, seriously. I mean, I found this generation to be completely biased as well. And the biggest thing that just killed this gaming generation for me was the rise of online gaming and how overrated it became. I'm talking about this shit is over fucking rated, man. I mean, goddamn. I mean, like, you couldn't go anywhere without people acting like fucking faggots over playing Call of Duty online on Xbox Live or PSN. It just became so stupid. People were talking about fucking Battlefield eventually later on, but Call of Duty was the worst. Everyone was dick riding that shit, saying, oh my god, Call of Duty online is the best. It's fucking awesome. It's the best game ever. I'm like, dude, the fucking single player in all those games is shit. I played Call of Duty 4 and I played Modern Warfare 2. The single player in those games are shit. The single player in those games are fucking shit. Like, literally, I'd rather play Resistance. Resistance has a way better storyline. The multiplayer isn't as good, but again, multiplayer to me is just like, if I really want good multiplayer, I'll go back and play Time Splitters. I'll go back and play Perfect Dark for the N64. I'll go back and play Quake 3 Arena for Dreamcast and stuff like that. Literally, multiplayer is like, seriously, that's a novelty. That should not be judged at how a fucking console is doing in the market, man. That's supposed to be like exclusives, either better graphics, which game looks better, which exclusives are better and stuff like that. People were dick riding over fucking online multiplayer, and I was like, holy shit, the gaming industry is becoming so fucking stupid. Like, seriously, the gamers were becoming fucking stupid. It was just like such a massive disappointment this generation. Like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, this could have been such an epic console war, and it ended up being a piece of shit. I compare this console war to WrestleMania 17. No, take that back. I compare this console war to the early part of the Ruthless Aggression era and the WCW invasion and WCW, the alliance angle in wrestling. I compare this console war to that because it was like, wow, this could have been so epic and so fucking good, but it ended up being such a lackluster, bland piece of shit. that it was decent. It was decent at best. Like, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a god awful console or anything like that. It wasn't like the Atari and Intellivision days. No, it was much better, but still, it was just like you felt all it was just like too fucking corporate. It was just like, dude, seriously, come on. Like, you guys could do better than this shit. That's what I felt about this generation. You know, I mean, you had so many games like Tekken, Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, all these games going to the 360. You know, all these like, ones that were exclusive to the PlayStation are now coming to the 360. And the 360 also has like Halo and Gears of War. And like I would have thought like Sony would have just came back with a vengeance and tried to like destroy Xbox. Like, literally, this was like Sega versus this could have been like Sega versus Nintendo, or the Monday Night Wars with WWF versus WCW, and this ended up just being such a corporate piece of shit. Like, literally, it just became a bunch of faggots arguing about stupid shit. I mean, it was like the best thing about this generation of consoles was the YouTube debates that people would get into, like El Presador and General MLD and stuff like that. That was the best part of this generation, to be perfectly honest with you. All right, and like, literally, this generation was just like, it had some good games. I'm not gonna lie, there were some really cool games this generation, but for the most part, it was just like whatever, man. It just didn't do it for me like the PS2 era did, or the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era did for me. It's just like whatever, man. I will say that this era was better than the PS1 and N64 era. I will say that because I find the PS1 N64 era to be one of the most overrated eras in all of gaming. I do think that this era was way better than that. I will say that. But as far as like what I was expecting, at least, I don't know about you guys, but what I was expecting was just an all-out war between two mega conglomerate corporations, you know, basically bowing down and sucking our gamers' dicks, trying to like, you know, make us want to buy their system even more. And we did not get that. And if we could have gotten it, but again, and I blame some of the gamers as well, because they're fucking faggots, buying into all this Call of Duty shit, buying into all this like DLC online multiplayer shit, and trying to act like they're hardcore gamers when they're not. They are not fucking hardcore gamers. They're a bunch of fags, a bunch of fucking idiots. I mean, this generation was just a huge letdown for me personally. It could have been so much better than what it was. I mean, I was expecting like something amazing. I just remember like every single year, almost every 2 years, a new shitty Uncharted game coming out. I was like, fuck Uncharted. This game is a fucking ripoff of Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider. I'm like, fuck this series. This series isn't one of even Sony's highest selling or rated series. I mean, that honor goes to the likes of God of War and Gran Turismo. And they're going to still focus on Uncharted, even though it's not even a huge seller. And they're still focusing on it with the PS4, with Uncharted 4. I'm like, fuck Uncharted. Seriously, create a new fucking series. Jesus Christ. Fuck Uncharted. God damn. Like, the game is not all that great. Seriously. It's not. Jesus. I mean, this... Oh, man. This console war could have been so much better than what it was. I'm dead fucking serious. It really could have been fucking epic. And it just ended up just being like an online... People were arguing over dumb shit. Like, oh my god, Xbox has better on live... Xbox Live is better than PlayStation's online service. It's like stupid shit like that. I'm like, dude, compare the games. Stop talking about some shitty... novelty feature that's online. Seriously, you guys are fucking faggots for even talking about that shit. You're fucking dumb. It's just like wow, you people are dumb as shit. Seriously, dude, this generation was just a huge disappointment for me. I mean, man, I mean, it could have been epic too. It could have been like the best of like really cool, gritty American games, along with the more colorful style of like certain Japanese games, and stuff like that. And we're trying to like fight for exclusives. Like there could be like certain badass American games for the PlayStation, like God of War, Resistance, even Killzone, and some other really cool games. And they also had like a whole bunch of really cool Japanese exclusives, which they eventually got, like Demon Souls and stuff like that. And it could have been like a war. Like Xbox could have tried to like compete with that. They could have had like created like their own like God of War type game, which they tried with the Xbox One with that Rygar game, but that game sucked. That game fucking sucked. I mean, and I remember Ninja Gaiden was exclusive for the Xbox for a while. I'm like, dude, they should have fucking kept that exclusive. I mean, even though I own a PS3, I don't own an Xbox anymore. I gave it in after the RRD fiasco, which is another thing that pissed me off about this generation. The hardware failures. In the Wii, I haven't even talked about the Wii in this video because that's how irrelevant it was to me. I don't even give a shit about the Wii. The only two games I care about on the Wii were Super Smash Bros. Brawl and Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. I do not give a shit. And actually, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption was pretty cool too. That was actually a really cool game. Other than that, I don't give a shit about the Wii. I don't care about the Wii. Okay? Another thing that went downhill this generation until Sonic Generations came out with the Sonic games. Like the Sonic games were kind of going downhill after Sonic Heroes, but this generation you saw like Sonic 06. I remember so much hype around that. That game was like it was gonna be like Sonic Adventure 3 almost, and then it ended up being a piece of shit. And like all these shitty storybook games for the Wii, like Sonic and the Black Knight or Sonic and the Secret Rings and all that shit, all that gay ass shit. It's just like, wow, this everything is going downhill. It's like, wow, man. I really hope that the PS4, Xbox One console war starts to heat up again. I heard the creator of Mega Man, he's working on this game called Mighty Number 9, which looks kind of cool, but this isn't even nostalgia. This isn't even me getting older and being nostalgic. It's like, dude, we could have had really cool shit for this generation, and it wasn't. It wasn't like that. That's the way I see this console war. And every single game overrated the first person view. Oh my god. I was like, dude, fuck off with this shit. Every game, Mirror's Edge, Portal, the fucking Half-Life, the game Portal and that wasn't even a shooter, and it was fucking first person. Every game was first person, even BioShock. I like BioShock, but every game focused on first person shooter. You got Borderlands, all these shooters. It was like, come on, bring new other genres back from the fucking dead. Bring back beat 'em ups. Bring back hack and slash games, man. Look at how fucking popular Bayonetta became. Create like a game that could compete with Bayonetta. Because nobody even likes the new Devil May Cry. That's another thing. That went downhill. Resident Evil went downhill this generation. Devil May Cry, they fucked it up. They fucked up Silent Hill this generation. Well, you could argue they fucked it up during the PS2 era with that Silent Hill 4 The Room, which that sucked. I'm sorry, that game sucked. But Jesus fucking Christ, they ruined so many fucking franchises this generation. That was another thing that fucked up this generation. It was like, wow, Resident Evil 5 was probably the easiest Resident Evil game I've ever played in my life. I didn't even bother that much with Resident Evil 6. I remember going over to a friend's house playing Resident Evil 6, and I was just, wow, this game is just like, no. You know what? Resident Evil is dead. To me, Resident Evil just needs to die off. Just fucking die. I don't care. I don't care if I piss off a lot of fans by saying that. You know the series is only going to get worse. Alright, Resident Evil just needs to fucking die already. Quite frankly, I'm fed up with Resident Evil. I'm fed up with zombies in general. So Resident Evil just needs to fucking die. Like, seriously. Like, just die. Just fucking die. Create like a new zombie or a new horror-based sci-fi game. Like, seriously, Capcom. I heard Capcom is about to go out of business too. They're out for sale and shit. So it's just like, damn, man. It's just like, what happened to gaming? It became so fucking stupid. It did. It fucking did. It became so fucking stupid. It just became like fucking just shittier and shittier and shittier and trying to appeal to like the lowest common denominator, man. We tried to like focus on people who don't even fucking play games and shit. It just became so fucking stupid.